who comes from Lower Early and has had a very, very tough time. Can I ask you, Martin, how old are you now?
I'm 32 years old now.
Okay. And tell me how you first became aware of your brain tumour.
Well, I went to Leighton Park here in Reading, and when I was 14 years old, I slipped over, banged my head, and I got concussed. They took me to hospital, and they gave me an X-ray, but there were no broken bones or fractures, so I was let back to school. Then, not too long afterwards, I started to have these bad headaches, and I started feeling incredible nausea, and I was vomiting, but then suddenly I just blacked out, and I don't know what happened after that. When I woke up, I was in the Oxford Radcliffe Infirmary, and I had all these strange doctors and nurses surrounding me, and one of them asked me, do you know where you are, Martin? And I told them the Royal Berks Hospital again, and they said, no, you're in the Radcliffe Infirmary in Oxford. You just had brain surgery. And that's when I first found out that I had a brain tumour, and they had to treat the symptoms that it was causing, severe high pressure inside the brain.
How old were you then?
I was 14 at the time.
Still 14, so it happened quite shortly after that first concussion you had.
Yes.
Interesting that they didn't pick up the fact that you had the brain tumour when you had the concussion.
No, it was only an X-ray, and the X-rays couldn't actually pick up the high pressure that was building up inside my head. Okay,
so how long were you in at that first time when they discovered the tumour and presumably removed it, did they?
They couldn't remove it because it was part of what's called the pineal gland, which is just underneath the brain, and it's on top of the spine. They instead, what they did was put a valve into my head and put a rubber tube from the area down into my stomach, so when the pressure built up, the valve would open and release the pressure into my stomach, basically.
Bionic man.
Sort of like that, yes.
Have you still got all that?
I do, yes.
Gosh, that's really interesting. So, now, was this a malignant tumour or was it benign?
It was growing, but it wasn't spreading to other parts.
Okay.
At least we don't think it was.
So it was actually benign, though increasing in size.
Yes.
But it wasn't going to give you cancer throughout your body, and it wasn't going to finish you off.
Well, that's what we hoped, yes.
Right, okay. So what was the next stage?
Well, basically, they released me back into school, and I was just set to go about my daily life as usual, and everything was okay. Until a few months later, I started getting headaches again, nausea came, and then suddenly blackout again. Taken back to Oxford to have a brain scan, and discovered that my valve had been rejected by my body, and it had been blocked up, or the tube had been blocked up, and so I was back to square one. They had to replace all the bits, and so there was more brain surgery again. But after that, a week's recovery, and then I was released again. And they were hoping that sooner or later my body would just get used to the apparatus.
Did it?
No, it didn't. A couple of months after that, I started getting headaches and nausea, blackouts, back to Oxford, and I remember, well, my mum told me at one time I was going in and out of hospital once a month for a year to have brain surgery.
I was going to ask you about your parents, because your mum must have been going to hell and back.
They were, very much so. They were going through all kinds of stress, but we were trying to deal with it as best we could, and just hoping for the best.
How many people have this condition? I mean, do they do these sorts of series of operations on many people?
Back in the day, when I first found out about it, in the whole of Europe, I believe there was less than 200 people with my particular condition, a tumour of the pineal gland causing an obstructive hydrocephalus.
You said that so well.
I've had a lot of practice.
Plenty of practice, I could tell. Yes, so the worry always is, when you've got a rare condition, do they really know? Are they familiar enough with the techniques to get the surgery right, to get the treatment right?
Well, with my surgeon, Mr. Richard Kerr, who's now one of the senior paediatric neurologists in the John Radcliffe in Oxford, he was fantastic. Every time I went there, I'd come out better than I went in. And he also listened to me very, very carefully, because I was almost like an experimental case. They needed to know everything that was happening with the treatment they gave me. And it was all on the NHS, and I couldn't thank them enough, because they managed to keep me alive on all the occasions that they've...
How many operations in all have you had?
To date, I've had 18 brain operations, and 17 of them were done in Oxford.
In your scalp and a lump or two?
Yep. Usually, when I have when my hair's grown of a certain length, then you can't see anything. And when I'm walking around the street, you wouldn't know any better. But when I go to schools giving my talks about my survival, I always have my hair shaved off so that the children can actually see the disaster that's happened on my head.
Can you see out of both your eyes? Because I've noticed they don't quite work together.
I can see fairly well out of my left eye, but my right eye, ever since I was a baby, I had a lazy eye, and after the operations that I've endured and the radiotherapy, the vision in that is quite poor.
So speech excellent, obviously. The listeners can judge that. Really good. Any other lasting effects?
I've got, because of the operations, I've got constant pain in my legs. That makes standing still or sitting still quite painful. I've also got short-term memory problems because of the radiotherapy, and I've got a lot of hearing in my left ear, plus the right-hand side of my body is has lost some of its strength, so my coordination is quite it's been compromised. So you can't take on regular work? I tried to do that back in 2004, but it's after 8 months I was just getting sick again, so you had to stop. Now, I have here a book you've written called SIS Student Investigation Service by Mart Hopley, but this has got you into trouble. Well, it might get me into trouble because last year I went to Reading Community Welfare Rights, who've been fantastic with me over the years. Every time my benefits have been taken away from me, they've managed to get it back. Stop there. What do you mean every time your benefits have been taken away from you? In the past, due to small technicalities, I've had my benefits stopped. Or I've been charged a small fee because I've been trying to do something. You mean when you've tried to get work, the effect has been that your disability benefit has stopped? Well, and I'm told by those who have to wrestle with these forms that in any case they're so complex and difficult to fill up, are they? They're horrendous. There must have been at least 10 double-sided sheets of paper that you've got to fill in, and any normal person doing it, you will get it wrong, guaranteed. So you must go to Citizens Advice Bureau or Reading Community Welfare Rights or an expert to get it filled in for you, with you telling them what the advice is. It's ridiculous. Listening to this is Elaine Erskine, who is just one of those experts. Good morning, Elaine.
Good morning, Esther.
Do you find that disabled people are always having this enormous struggle, A, to understand these forms, and then B, to get the benefits they need?
Absolutely, and it's not just disabled people. Disabled people in general find the forms hard enough. They're certainly not easy to work your way around, and as Martin has quite rightly said, if you fill the forms in on your own, the chances are your benefit will probably be turned down first time. You do need specialist help to fill the forms in, but certainly in Martin's case and in the case of the patients that we see on a daily basis, the cancer just does not fit the questions on the form. So it's about trying to make your daily difficulties and activities fit on the form alongside every other disability you can possibly think of. OK, so they've got room on the form for all the other disabilities, but to have a tumour,
you know, it just doesn't qualify. Is that right?
Absolutely, and particularly where the side effects are concerned. As Martin said, side effects from radiotherapy and chemotherapy can affect people in so many different ways. But if you looked at the questions on the form, it's not. You just can't answer the question yes or no. You have to start to expand and fully explain what that patient's difficulties are.
So tell me, Martin, you've walked in here with some fabulous sandwich boards covered with slogans. I'm creating a job tailored to my illness. Is that your writing?
Yes.
Okay. But the system, you say, in the middle of your sandwich board is stopping me,
yes.
Underlined in red. So what are you campaigning for? What do you want? What change do you want to see?
Well, I've written off to the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister and 4 members of the House of Lords with whom I correspond. And I've told them that I'm trying to come off benefits by creating something that I can do in conjunction with my illness. So, but I'm worried that the system is going to come down on me again. So I want to meet up with Ian Duncan Smith.
He's the man.
And tell him exactly what it's like from the inside, and also my ideas, not only on how to help people like myself, but also how to catch the benefit fraudsters who, well, they seem to treat me as one of those people.
Is that another difficulty disabled people have, Elaine, that they get treated as if they're scroungers?
Absolutely. I mean, we come across it every single day. As with Reading Welfare Rights have done for Martin, we do it on a daily basis for our cancer patients, particularly breast and prostate and testicular. They're extremely difficult to get benefits for, and they are automatically labelled as scroungers from the outset, and you have to prove otherwise, and it's completely the wrong way round.
Particularly when you're someone like Martin, who has battled against 18 separate operations with a fantastic determination, wonderful bravery, and a great deal of pride, because all he wants to do is be independent.
Absolutely, and he's one of many. And I would like to say to Martin that if he's trying to meet up with Ian Duncan Smith, I'm sure there are a lot of my patients who would be more than happy to jump on the bandwagon and turn up mob-handed, if you like,
Sounds a good
try and
idea.
get this question across, because it's much better coming from a lot of people that have experienced that problem rather than just one.
Can I just ask you, Elaine, we've had sort of hints and rumours about changes that are going to happen as a result of Ian Duncan Smith's reforms that he's proposing, and one seems to be that he's going to try and make it so that you always are better off working than you would be out of work.
Absolutely, but again, I mean, Martin is a different case because unfortunately he was diagnosed at a very tender age, but a lot of our patients and clients have worked for the majority of their lives, suddenly to be struck down by cancer, and finding that all of a sudden their money has already gone down from what might have been £1,500, £2,000 a month to £79 a week. So they're already not better off on benefits than working, absolutely not.
And they may have expensive travel arrangements to make, they may have to make provision for their family and so on.
Absolutely, and as we've heard from Lorraine over the last few weeks as well, Lorraine McClellan, that her mortgage was one of them, and, you know, she still had those commitments, they didn't go away, but her income had dropped to £79 a week.
Well, it's desperate. Can I just wish you all the luck in the world, Martin, A, with your health. I do hope it continues to improve and that you continue to get these wonderful treatments that you're looking so well on, and B, with your campaign. I can see that you and Elaine might actually do very well together. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.